I was home alone that night. And at exactly 2:13 a.m., someone tried opening my bedroom door. Not banging. Not forcing it. Just slowly turning the handle. Like they thought I was asleep. At first, I didn't move. I just laid there, staring at the door, trying to convince myself I was imagining it. Then it happened again. A soft, careful click. The handle moved just enough to make that quiet metal sound. The kind you only hear when someone is trying not to be heard. My heart started pounding so loud I was sure whoever was out there could hear it. Because I knew one thing for sure. I was supposed to be the only person in that house. Before we begin, welcome to Midnight Tales. If you enjoy true scary stories and real experiences from people who have encountered the unexplained, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Because here, we share some of the most chilling stories found anywhere on the internet. Now let's begin. This is a true story that happened in my parents' house in the suburbs. The one night I was completely alone. Nothing felt strange at first. It actually felt normal. It was a Friday night. My parents had left earlier that day for a weekend trip. And for the first time, I had the entire house to myself. No rules. No one checking on me. Just quiet. I remember thinking how peaceful it felt. Our house wasn't huge, but it wasn't small either. 2 floors. Wooden stairs that creaked if you stepped in the wrong place. My room upstairs at the end of the hallway. And the living room and kitchen downstairs, connected by this open space with a kitchen island right in the middle. There was also a sliding glass door in the kitchen that led to the backyard. The kind that made a distinct sound every time it opened or closed. That night, I stayed upstairs most of the time. Just laying in bed, scrolling on my phone, switching between videos. Occasionally hearing the TV playing downstairs in the background. It felt like one of those quiet nights where nothing could go wrong. At some point, I remember checking the time. A little after midnight. That's when I realized something small. Something I didn't think mattered at the time. We had a security system in the house. The kind that beeps when a door opens. But I never armed it. I told myself it didn't matter. I mean, I was alone, right? There was no reason to. Around midnight. That's when I heard it. A sudden sound from downstairs. Like something had fallen in the kitchen. It wasn't loud enough to feel dangerous. But it was loud enough to make me stop moving completely. I remember lying there in bed. Listening. Trying to figure out what it was. It sounded like glass, maybe a cup, or something ceramic hitting the floor. For a few seconds, I didn't even breathe properly. I just listened harder, waiting for another sound. But nothing came. The house went completely quiet again. And then I convinced myself it was nothing. Probably just something on the counter slipping. Maybe a plate wasn't balanced right. Maybe the house settling. I even remember letting out a small laugh. Because it felt stupid to even be nervous. But that feeling didn't last long. Because a few minutes later, it happened again. Except this time, it didn't sound like something falling. It sounded like something being moved. Slowly. Across the floor downstairs. That's when I stopped laughing. I stayed still in bed, staring at my bedroom door. Waiting to hear anything else. And then, something changed. The TV downstairs just shut off. No sound. No click. No warning. Just silence. But it wasn't normal silence. It was the kind of silence that feels heavier than noise. Like the house itself was holding its breath. I remember sitting up slowly, trying to listen more carefully. But the more I listened, the more wrong everything felt. Because that's when I realized something I didn't notice before. The kitchen light was on. I didn't remember turning it on. And I was supposed to be the only one in the house. After that, I started paying attention to everything. Every small sound, every shift in the house, felt louder than it should have. At first, I told myself it was nothing. Houses make noise. Wood settles. Pipes click. Air moves. But then I heard it. Footsteps. Downstairs. Not fast. Not running. Slow, deliberate steps. Like someone was walking through the kitchen, without any rush at all. I froze immediately. Because I knew the way my house sounded at night. I knew the difference between the house settling and someone actually walking inside it. And this wasn't settling. I sat up in bed, staring at the hallway outside my room, trying to convince myself it was just my imagination. Then the TV downstairs flickered back on. Not fully. Just a flash of light, like it tried to turn on, then failed. And immediately after that, the kitchen light started flickering. Once. Twice. Then it stayed on. That's when something in me shifted. Because it didn't feel random anymore. It felt like something was moving through the house, room by room, as if it was checking it. I remember slowly getting out of bed at that point. My feet touching the floor felt heavier than normal, like the air had changed. Every step I took toward my bedroom door felt wrong. And then, the TV downstairs shut off completely. No sound. No click. No warning. Just silence. But this silence was different from before. It felt final. Like whatever was happening had stopped waiting. And that's when I realized something I didn't notice before. Something I should have noticed from the beginning. The kitchen light was still on. I stood there staring at it in my mind, trying to remember if I ever went downstairs earlier, trying to remember if I ever touched that switch. But I couldn't. And before I could even process the thought fully, my phone buzzed in my hand. I grabbed it instantly, like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. But when I looked at the screen, no signal. Not even one bar. I tried calling my mom immediately. It didn't even ring. It just failed. Again. And again. That's when the house changed again. Because I heard it. Footsteps. Right under me. Directly beneath my room. Slow. Heavy. Moving across the living room floor. Like whoever it was had finally decided they didn't need to be quiet anymore. At that point, I couldn't stay in my room anymore. Every sound downstairs felt closer now. Like whatever was moving had reached the point where it didn't care if I heard it or not. I remember standing at my bedroom door for a long time, just listening. Nothing. No footsteps. No TV. No movement. That silence was worse than anything I had heard before. It didn't feel empty anymore. It felt occupied. Eventually, I opened my door, slowly. Trying not to make a sound. The handle felt colder than I remembered. Or maybe my hand was just shaking too much to tell. I stepped into the hallway. And everything felt different immediately. The air felt heavier. The house felt tighter. Like the space itself had changed while I was inside my room. The hallway light was on. Bright enough to see everything, but wrong enough that I stopped moving. Because I didn't remember turning it on. I would have remembered that. I stood there for a moment, trying to convince myself there was a logical explanation. Maybe I left it on earlier. Maybe I forgot. But deep down, I knew I hadn't been downstairs since everyone left. And I hadn't touched that switch. Then I heard it again. Footsteps. But this time, they weren't random. They were directly below me. Moving slowly across the living room floor. Like they were circling the room. I took one step toward the stairs. Then another. Each step felt louder than it should have, even though I was trying to stay quiet. The stairs were just ahead now. From where I stood, I could see part of the living room downstairs. But not everything. Just enough to know something was down there. And then the footsteps stopped. Completely. Like whoever was walking had realized I was listening. I remember gripping the railing so tightly my fingers started to hurt. I leaned forward slightly, trying to see more. That's when I saw it. Everything downstairs was still. The kitchen. The living room. The light above the island. All of it frozen in a way that didn't feel normal. And then, in the middle of all that stillness, there was someone in my house. Standing in the kitchen. Right under the light. Just staring up at me. They didn't move. Not even a little. No shift in posture. No head turn. Nothing. Like they had been standing there the entire time, waiting for me to show myself. And the worst part was, it didn't feel like they were surprised to see me. It felt like they expected me. I couldn't move. I was just standing there, holding the railing, staring down at that figure in the kitchen. And it didn't react at all. Like it already knew I was there. That's when I noticed something I still can't explain properly. The house wasn't just quiet anymore. It felt like it was listening. Waiting for something to happen. Then the figure finally moved, just slightly. Not walking. Not turning. Just tilting its head upward a little more. And I swear, it looked directly at me. That's when I heard it. A voice. Soft. Too calm. Like it wasn't even trying to scare me. But the worst part was when it spoke. Everything in me went cold at once. It didn't shout. It didn't rush. It just said my name. Perfectly. Like it had said it 1,000 times before. And I froze completely. Because I knew I had never told anyone outside my family that I was home alone that night. But then came the part that didn't make sense at all. A second voice answered. Not from downstairs. Not from the kitchen. From upstairs. Right behind me. That's when I realized I wasn't just looking at something in my house. I was trapped between it. I don't remember much after that. I just remember calling the police with shaking hands, my voice barely coming out right. They told me to stay outside. I didn't even argue. When they arrived, they searched the entire house. Every room. Every hallway. Every closet. Even the basement. Nothing. No sign anyone had been inside. No footprints. No broken locks. No open doors. Nothing at all. They looked at me like I had misheard something, or maybe imagined it in the dark. One of them even said maybe I was just panicking because I was alone. But I know what I saw. And I know what I heard. And I know one thing for sure. I was not alone in that house that night. If you're ever home alone, and you hear something downstairs, don't try to convince yourself it's nothing. Don't tell yourself it's just the house settling. Or the fridge. Or your imagination playing tricks on you. Because I did that. And it almost made me walk straight into it. There's something about silence in a house that doesn't feel right. Something you can't explain until you're actually living in it. And once that silence changes, you feel it immediately. So if it ever happens to you, if you hear a sound, and you know deep down it wasn't supposed to happen, don't ignore it. Because sometimes, they're not breaking in. They're not forcing their way inside. They're not coming from outside the house at all. They were already inside.